The cockpit of an F-16 Fighting Falcon at 30,000 feet is a place of absolute, deceptive calm. Below you, the world is a silent map of clouds. Above you, the sky is transitioning from a bright cerulean to the deep, dark indigo of the edge of space. You are flying a routine ferry mission, cruising at Mach 0.8. The only sound is the steady, rhythmic hiss of your oxygen regulator. You are in a controlled environment, a pressurized bubble protected from the lethal vacuum of the upper atmosphere by a few inches of polycarbonate and high-grade aluminum. Then, the silence changes. It starts with a subtle vibration in your mask, a fluttering sensation in the intake valve. This is followed by a sudden, terrifying lack of resistance when you inhale. You pull a deep breath, but you get nothing but thin, freezing, empty air. On your right-hand console, a master caution light flickers to life. Oxygen low. The regulator has failed. At 30,000 feet, the atmospheric pressure is less than 1/3 of what it is at sea level. There isn't enough partial pressure to push oxygen across the membranes of your lungs and into your bloodstream. In the world of aerospace physiology, you have just entered the TUC window, the time of useful consciousness. At this altitude, you have exactly 60 seconds before your brain becomes too starved of oxygen to perform even a basic task. You aren't going to pass out immediately. Instead, you are going to experience a blissful, euphoric confusion while your hands slowly stop obeying your commands. You are 30,000 feet up, traveling faster than a high-velocity bullet, and you are 60 seconds away from becoming a silent passenger in a multi-million-dollar coffin. What will you do? Before we commit to a course of action, we must analyze the biological board. To survive a high-altitude emergency, you cannot rely on instinct. In fact, your instincts are your greatest enemy here. Instinct tells you to gasp, but gasping only accelerates the depletion of the oxygen already stored in your blood and brain tissues. To survive, you must understand the technical mechanics of hypoxia. Layer 1. The time of useful consciousness. TUC is the most critical metric in aviation safety. At 30,000 feet, your window is 60 seconds. This is the narrow period where you can still recognize a problem exists and take corrective action. Once you pass this window, you enter a state of euphoria. Your brain begins to release dopamine as a side effect of oxygen starvation. You might feel happy. You might even feel like everything is perfectly fine. This is why it is called the ghost in the machine. There are documented cases of pilots looking at their oxygen gauges, seeing the needle at 0, and laughing because they no longer have the cognitive power to process danger. Your logic centers are the first to die, leaving only your primitive, confused instincts behind. Layer 2. The rapid decompression paradox. If the mask failure is tied to a loss of cabin pressure, the problem isn't just a lack of oxygen, it's pure physics. The air inside your lungs is at a much higher pressure than the freezing air outside the jet. If you instinctively hold your breath to save your air, the air inside your chest will expand rapidly as the pressure drops. This can cause an explosive lung overexpansion or an arterial gas embolism. You have to force yourself to breathe out to survive the pressure change, even while your primitive brain is screaming at you to breathe in. It is a biological paradox that kills the panicked. Layer 3. The emergency oxygen system. Look at the side of your ejection seat. There is a small green ring, the manual override for the emergency oxygen cylinder. This cylinder is located inside the seat pan. It is designed to provide roughly 10 minutes of breathing air, primarily for the descent after a high-altitude ejection. However, activating it while still strapped into the cockpit is a high-dexterity task. If your gloves are thick, or if your hands are already starting to shake, finding and pulling that small green ring becomes a monumental challenge. If you fumble it, you've wasted precious seconds of your TUC that you can never get back. The clock is ticking, and the indigo sky is starting to shimmer at the edges of your vision. You have 3 tactical paths, and each one carries a heavy physical price. Option A, the emergency split S. You ignore the mask. You ignore the seat. You immediately roll the aircraft inverted and pull into a steep 5G vertical dive. Your goal is to reach 10,000 feet, the life zone, where the air is thick enough to breathe without a mask. The logic here is speed. By diving, you are using the jet's massive kinetic energy to get you into breathable air as fast as possible. But the risks are massive. You are performing a high-stress maneuver while your brain is actively losing consciousness. If you gray out from the G-force of the turn, you will never wake up. Furthermore, if there is mountainous terrain below you, a blind dive at 900 feet per second is a death sentence. You are racing the air to the ground, and in that race, the ground usually wins. Option B, the EOS, activation and level flight. You stay at altitude and focus entirely on finding that green ring on your seat. You prioritize getting the emergency air flowing before you worry about the jet's flight path. The theory is that if you have oxygen, you have time. Once the mask is flowing again, you can calmly declare a mayday and begin a controlled, safe descent. The risk, however, is mechanical failure. If the ring is jammed, or if the cylinder was improperly charged, you have just wasted 30 seconds of your 60-second window. You are now 30 seconds closer to a terminal coma with no backup plan. In the air, tunnel vision is a killer. If you focus on the ring and ignore the fact that the nose of the jet is drifting into a graveyard spiral, you might hit the water before the oxygen even reaches your lungs. Option C, the immediate ejection. You don't fight the jet, and you don't fight the mask. You realize that 60 seconds is not enough time to troubleshoot a complex life support failure. You pull the ejection handles between your legs. The seat's automated systems will take over entirely, firing a rocket motor that blasts you out of the cockpit. The seat will provide you with integrated oxygen and stabilize your fall until you reach a safe altitude. The risk here is the trade. You are abandoning a multi-million-dollar aircraft over potentially hostile territory. More importantly, ejection at high speed is an incredibly violent event. The wind blast at 30,000 feet can exceed 500 miles per hour, capable of breaking limbs. You are trading the jet for your life, but that trade might leave you with permanent injuries. In the world of elite fighter pilots, you follow a strict hierarchy: aviate, navigate, communicate. When the mask fails, you don't panic. You execute the integrated descent. First, you don't roll the jet into a high G dive. Instead, you pull the throttle all the way to idle and extend your speed brakes. This allows the aircraft's own weight to pull it into a rapid descent without building up dangerous airspeed that could make the controls too heavy to move. You are letting gravity do the work for you. Next, you don't fumble for the green ring with your eyes. You keep your eyes locked on the horizon to maintain spatial orientation. You use your left hand to feel for the seat pan. While you do this, you utilize the M2 maneuver. You grunt against a closed throat to artificially increase the pressure in your chest. This forces whatever residual oxygen is left in your blood up into your cranium. It is painful and exhausting, but it buys you an extra 15 seconds of clarity. The master move is the target altitude. You don't dive all the way to 10,000 feet, you dive to 15,000. At 15,000 feet, the air is breathable in a survival situation, but you are still high enough to stay above most mountain peaks. You engage the emergency sky mode on your autopilot to keep the wings level while you finally secure the emergency oxygen hose. You have used the physics of the aircraft's weight to drop yourself into the life zone before your brain reached the euphoria phase. The jet levels out at 15,000 feet. The cockpit glass is beginning to fog over. You pull the failed mask off your face, gasping in the cold, thin, but life-saving air. You key the radio, your voice shaking but clear. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Viper 1-1. I have a life support failure. Requesting immediate vectors to the nearest divert field. You are breathing. It's bitter cold, and your lungs burn from the sudden pressure change, but you are conscious. You look at the digital clock on your HUD. From the moment the mask failed to the moment you leveled out, only 48 seconds had passed. In that tiny window of time, you made 3 major tactical decisions that saved your life and preserved a strategic asset. The euphoria never got a chance to take hold. You didn't become a ghost pilot, wandering the atmosphere until your fuel ran out. But as you look at that flickering amber oxygen low light, you realize how close you came to just letting go. High altitude doesn't kill you with a scream. It kills you with a sigh, a smile, and a sense of overwhelming peace. It is the most beautiful way to die, and that is exactly why it is so dangerous. How would you have spent your 60 seconds? Would you have trusted the automated systems of the ejection seat, or would you have dived for the dirt? The higher you go, the thinner the line becomes between a hero and a statistic. Tell us your emergency flight plan in the comments below. This has been Military Dilemma. Stay sharp, stay alive.